Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're taking a virtual trip to one of the most iconic landmarks in the world. Yep, you guessed it, the Eiffel Tower. But we're not just talking about its height or the fact that it's in Paris. We're diving into the 10 surprising facts that you probably didn't know about this world-famous monument. Whether you visit it in person, dream of seeing it one day, or just love fun trivia, you're in for a treat. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. 1. The Eiffel Tower was once hated by Parisians. Can you believe that? When the Eiffel Tower was first unveiled in 889, many Parisians hated it. They thought it was an eyesore. Famous artists, writers, and intellectuals even signed petitions calling it a monstrous piece of metal that didn't belong in the beautiful Paris skyline. One writer, Guy de Maupassant, hated it so much that he ate lunch at the Eiffel Tower's restaurant every day, just because it was the only place in Paris where he didn't have to see the tower. But despite all the complaints, the Eiffel Tower still stands proud today, and most people can't imagine Paris without it. 2. It was supposed to be temporary. Here's a mind-blowing fact. The Eiffel Tower was originally meant to be temporary. Gustave Eiffel, the engineer behind it, had a permit for it to stand for just 20 years. After that, the tower was supposed to be dismantled and sold for scrap. But luckily, Eiffel had a smart plan. He convinced the government to keep it because of its potential for scientific research, like using it as a giant radio antenna. Thanks to that, the tower was saved. And here we are, over 130 years later, with the Eiffel Tower still towering over Paris. 3. The Eiffel Tower changes height. You might think the Eiffel Tower is always the same size, but it's actually not. Believe it or not, the tower's height might have been years. In the summer, the iron expands in the heat, and the tower grows by about 6 inches, 15 centimeters. Then, in the winter, when the temperature drops, it shrinks back down. It's a subtle change, but the Eiffel Tower is literally growing and shrinking every year. Chuckling. Who knew the Eiffel Tower had its own little growth spurts, right? 4. It wasn't designed by just one person. We often hear the name Gustave Eiffel when talking about the tower, but here's a fun twist. He wasn't the sole mastermind. In fact, 2 lesser-known engineers, Maurice Coquelin and Émile Nouguier, were the ones who came up with the initial design. Eiffel was the businessman who pushed the project forward and got it built, but Coquelin and Nouguier deserve a lot of credit for the vision behind the tower's skeletal structure. So next time you think of the Eiffel Tower, remember, it's the product of teamwork. 5. It's painted every 7 years. Keeping the Eiffel Tower looking pristine is no small task. Did you know it's repainted every 7 years? The entire process requires about 60 tons of paint, and it's done entirely by hand to protect the iron structure from rust. The paint color has also changed over the years, from a reddish-brown to yellow, before they settled on the current shade, known as Eiffel Tower Brown. Imagine the work that goes into keeping this iconic tower gleaming. 6. The tower has a secret apartment. Here's one of the coolest secrets. Gustave Eiffel built himself a private apartment at the very top of the tower. While tourists can visit the top observation deck today, back in the day, Eiffel's apartment was off-limits to the public. He used it as a quiet retreat and to entertain important guests like Thomas Edison. It's now open for visitors to peek inside, and it's still furnished as it was when Eiffel lived there. 7. It's covered in names of scientists. Next time you're standing beneath the Eiffel Tower, look closely at the sides. You'll notice the names of 72 scientists engraved into the ironwork. These were the great minds of the 19th century who made major contributions to science and engineering. Gustave Eiffel wanted to honor them by immortalizing their names on his tower, kind of like a Hall of Fame for geniuses. 8. The Eiffel Tower was almost sold twice now. This one's pretty wild. In the 1920s, a man named Victor Lustig pulled off one of the biggest scams of the century. He pretended to sell the Eiffel Tower. Twice, Lustig convinced scrap metal dealers that the tower was going to be torn down and sold for parts. He even faked government documents to make the sale look official. Somehow, he got away with it both times before fleeing the country. Can you imagine falling for that? 9. The Eiffel Tower has shrunk before, okay? So we talked about the tower growing and shrinking with the seasons. But here's another fun fact. The Eiffel Tower has actually shrunk in its history by about 15 centimeters. During World War II, Hitler ordered the tower to be dismantled, but the French resisted. To slow down German forces, they cut the lift cables, which meant the tower couldn't be easily climbed. It wasn't restored until after the war, but the height never returned to what it once was. 10. It's the most visited paid monument in the world. And finally, did you know that the Eiffel Tower holds the title for the most visited paid monument in the world? More than 7 million people visit it every year. It's incredible to think that a structure once hated by so many has become one of the most beloved landmarks on the planet. Whether it's for a romantic selfie, a cultural experience, or to just say you've been to Paris, the Eiffel Tower draws people from all walks of life. So there you have it, 10 surprising facts about the Eiffel Tower. From being almost scrapped to secret apartments and scientific tributes, this iconic landmark is packed with history and surprises. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below with your favorite Eiffel Tower fact. And if you visited the tower, tell us what your experience was like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.